This video is sponsored by Surfshark.
When you've been the top dog in the Android world for as long as Samsung, there's just no pressure to take big risks. With the Galaxy S25 Ultra, they're playing it as safe as ever. It's got a few upgrades, a bigger focus on AI, and one change that has everyone wondering,
what the heck is Samsung up to? That change, of course, is the removal of Bluetooth functionality from the S Pen. I won't pretend like I used Air Actions or the remote shutter all that much, and honestly, I probably won't even miss it. Still, for a phone this expensive, cutting something that was heavily marketed in previous years just feels kind of icky. That said, the S Pen still does what it's meant to, taking notes and sketching, and it does both decently well. It's also just nice for those times when you need mouse-like precision. If you've never used one, it's worth noting the pen itself is pretty small and the phone wobbles more than I'd like. So for me, it's not ideal for long writing sessions. It's more of a quick notes on the go kind of tool. I know some don't, but I actually like the look of the floating camera rings. I feel like it adds more personality to an otherwise fairly generic design. But here's the thing. The gap at the bottom is gonna be a total dust trap, and seeing that video of Zach popping them off like they're some kind of cheap aftermarket lens protector, yeah, that threw me off a bit. Sure, most of us aren't gonna be taking a razor blade to our $1,300 phones, and I doubt they'll just fall off on their own. At least, I hope they won't. I love this display. It's probably my favorite thing about the phone. Sure, it's not 10-bit like the OnePlus 13, and it loses the peak brightness battle to the Pixel, but just look at it. To my eyes, this is the best looking smartphone screen on the market. A big part of that is the anti-reflective layer. It just makes everything way easier to see no matter the conditions. Plus, I'm seeing less of that graininess compared to last year's display. It's still there if you really look for it, but it's much less noticeable. The speakers are also a pleasant surprise. For the first time ever, I take a Galaxy phone speaker over an iPhone's. The iPhone still wins in clarity, but the S25 Ultra just sounds more pleasing to my ears. Plus, with multiple sound presets and a custom EQ, you can tweak it to sound however you want. Of course, the S25 Ultra is rocking the new Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, a chip tuned specifically for Samsung. And yeah, it's fast. Super fast. Benchmarks confirm it's a sizable jump over last year too. It throttles pretty quick, but even the lowest score in 3D Mark is almost equal to the high score from the S23 Ultra. So great news for gamers. Normally, I'd say raw performance isn't something you'll notice unless you're a hardcore mobile gamer, but on a phone with a full-blown desktop mode, the extra performance is always welcomed. I've been pushing Dex pretty hard on it, connecting it to a 4K display, running tons of apps at once, including games, and the phone doesn't even break a sweat. Now, if only we could convince Samsung to show DeX some more love. Battery life is probably the main reason to be happy about this new chip. It's been better than I expected. I'm coming from the OnePlus 13 with its fancy new battery tech and a massive 6,000 mAh battery. I'm honestly surprised at how well the S25 Ultra keeps up despite the smaller battery. Using both phones the exact same way, I'm ending days with around 40 to 45% left, compared to 50 to 55% on the OnePlus. The OnePlus lasts longer, but it's not a huge gap, and let's be real, most of us are charging daily anyway. Charging speed was another surprise. It's still capped at 45 watts like last year, but going from 0 to 100% took just under an hour. That's about 10 to 15 minutes faster than the S24 Ultra. Sure, there are Android phones that charge way faster, but honestly, an hour is completely fine with me. It's also Qi 2 ready. The ready part means that there's no magnets in the actual phone, so you'll need a case to use MagSafe accessories. The camera experience is pretty much the same as last year, outside of the updated ultra-wide, which is personally my least used lens. A better ultra-wide does mean better macro shots though, and it does take some pretty awesome close-up of things. The phone also seems to be handling moving subjects a little bit better too, but you still get more motion blur than a Pixel 9 or iPhone, which has been a complaint of mine for years. For the most part, I do think that these are very capable cameras, especially the portrait mode, and zooming in on stuff is always going to be fun, but for point and shoot photography, the Pixel 9 Pro has my vote.
New this year is the ability to record in the log format, so you have more flexibility in post-production. While you check out the video and my quality compared to the Pocket 3, let me quickly tell you about today's video sponsor, Surfshark. I rely on Surfshark VPN to keep my online activity private and secure, especially when I'm working in public places or traveling. But it's not just for safety. Surfshark VPN is a game changer for streaming. It lets me unlock content from over 100 locations so I can watch shows and movies that aren't even available in my region. No more annoying geo blocks. Plus, Surfshark takes things further by by blocking ads and malware, making browsing a breeze. And here's a kicker, one account works on unlimited devices, so your whole family is secure too. Still unsure? Well, they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it completely risk-free. Try Surfshark now by clicking the link below for an extra 4 months free.
Now, something about One UI just feels like home to me. Like iOS for iPhones, it's the secret sauce that keeps people coming back to Samsung. The S25 Ultra ships with One UI 7 and will get software support for 7 years, right up until 2032. It's one of the bigger visual updates that Samsung has done in a while, but it still feels familiar. The design is more modern. It definitely takes some inspiration from iOS, and overall, it's just a very smooth experience. By default, the quick settings and notification panel are now split into separate pages. I tried to get used to it, but it just feels less efficient. Thankfully, Samsung lets you switch back to the classic combined layout. Plus, quick settings are now fully customizable, so you can move your most used toggles closer to the bottom for easier reach. Love that change. The live notifications and now bar are probably the most notable UI changes to One UI. I'm fairly neutral about it, but my husband absolutely loves it. He's a huge sports guy, and automatically getting live scores and play-by-play updates on the lock screen just blew his mind. If you own Galaxy Buds, I really like the new menu inside the media player. It just makes adjusting your earbud settings more convenient and sort of ties Samsung ecosystem together a little bit more. On the lock screen, you'll notice the media player now lives inside the Now bar. It feels a little small, right? Well, tap on it and it expands into a much larger and nicer media player. We've seen that somewhere before, right? One of my favorite small changes is in the app drawer. If you sort your apps alphabetically, you now get a vertical scrolling app drawer instead of a side-to-side one. Small detail, but something I've wanted for years. They've also added so many widgets, and a lot of them are really good looking too. Throw in the new expandable folders plus ability to remove labels, and you've got a super customizable home screen. You can even adjust icon sizes, which is a nice touch. It's no secret, Samsung's betting big on AI, but honestly, I'm still a little underwhelmed. It's not Samsung's fault because out of everyone, they're actually doing the best job at trying to make AI useful in everyday life. The writing tools are solid, Interpreter can be helpful here and there, and AI Select is surprisingly powerful. But beyond that, nothing new is really moving the needle for me. Take Now Brief, for example. It tries to save you time by pulling info from different apps and displaying it in one spot, but let's be honest, it's not all that impressive. It also tries to share news that might interest me, but so far it's been way off. The nighttime briefing is probably my favorite part though. It shares highlights and photos from my day, and the mindfulness reminder is a nice human touch. Then there's Gemini integration, which was supposed to work better with Samsung apps, but it's been very hit or miss. I tried to get it to summarize a web page and save it to Samsung Notes. It said it worked, but when I checked, the note is nowhere to be found in the app. Like a lot of AI features, it either feels like a fun party trick or something that's still sort of half-baked. Also, am I the only one who thinks it's excessive to have literally 3 AI assistants pre-installed on my brand new phone? Look, the direction Samsung's going with their flagships kind of reminds me of what I used to say about iPhones. People will buy them no matter what. But with Samsung, it's a bit different. One UI is awesome, but Samsung's ecosystem lock-in isn't as tight as Apple's. It's much easier to switch from a Samsung to another Android phone than to jump from iPhone to Android. So is a cost-cutting move like removing Bluetooth functionality from the S Pen enough to make people jump ship for Samsung to notice? The truth is, probably not. Most people tend to stick to what they know and are resistant to change unless Samsung does something to really piss people off or they start to fall way behind the competition. But we're not there, at least not yet. On paper, the OnePlus 13 has the edge when it comes to hardware, right? But I'm willing to bet that if you ask most Samsung fans if they switch just for the better hardware, most will likely say no. The Galaxy S25 Ultra will probably still end up being one of the most well-rounded, feature-packed Android phones that you can buy this year. It might not dominate every category anymore, but it's competitive across the board and still stands out in a lot of ways. That said, here's hoping Samsung doesn't get too comfortable trying to sneak in more cost-cutting measures because it's gonna come back to bite them eventually. This phone is way too expensive to be losing features, even if it's one not a lot of people use. As usual, thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, I'm out of here.